When you write a background or context paragraph, your job is to orient the reader. You are not synthesizing findings, identifying debates, or naming gaps yet. You are answering two simple questions for the reader. What is this area of research about, and why does it matter? If you try to answer any other questions in this paragraph, it will start doing the wrong job. This paragraph usually appears at the beginning of a theme or at the beginning of the literature review section. Its purpose is to move the reader from a broad understanding of the topic to a more focused understanding of the specific area the review will examine next. When it works, the reader feels grounded and prepared for the analytical paragraphs that follow. Before you write a background paragraph, you need to be clear about one boundary. A background paragraph answers what and why, not what the research shows, why findings are mixed, or what is missing. If you feel tempted to say that research is limited, conflicting, or underexplored, you are already moving into synthesis, debate, or gap work. The background paragraph stays descriptive and contextual. A strong background paragraph is built on 4 moves, and you can think of them as 4 jobs. The first job is to establish importance. The second job is to show that scholars have been studying this topic. The third job is to name how the field generally frames or understands the topic. The fourth job is to narrow toward the specific focus of the section that follows. Most students struggle with background paragraphs not because they cannot write, but because they either stay too broad for too long or they start arguing too early. These 4 jobs keep the paragraph focused and controlled. The first job of a background paragraph is establishing importance. This is where you tell the reader why the topic matters in the real world of the field. This sentence should not be a list of citations. It should not be a definition. It should sound like something a knowledgeable reader in the discipline would already recognize as true. You are not proving anything here. You are situating the reader. If your first sentence feels like it is trying to persuade or defend the topic, you are doing too much. The second job is to show research activity. This is where citations belong, and this is where many students accidentally slip into summary. In a background paragraph, citations are not there to support a specific finding. They are there to show that the topic has been studied, that it has a research history, and that multiple scholars have contributed to it over time. This is why group citations are usually correct here. In most cases, you want more than 1 or 2 sources to signal research activity. Grouping 3 to 5 sources is often enough to show that this is an established area of inquiry, rather than a single isolated study. It is also important to know that these sources do not all need to be foundational or classic texts. If your area is newer or more specialized, recent studies can still do this work. The key is not the age of the source, but that multiple scholars are engaging with the topic in recognizable ways. The third job is to name shared framing. This is where you explain, at a high level, how the field tends to understand or define the topic. This part often sounds like a definition, but it should not read like a textbook. Instead of trying to give a complete or formal definition, focus on how the literature uses the concept. You are giving the reader a functional understanding that will help them follow the paragraphs that come next. If you start listing every dimension, theory, or model, the paragraph will become heavy and lose its orienting purpose. The fourth job is the narrowing bridge. This sentence controls the flow of the literature review. It should point the reader toward the specific theme or idea that the next paragraph will take up, which is usually a synthesis paragraph. This sentence does not introduce a gap, a problem, or a disagreement. It simply signals the direction of focus. Think of it as telling the reader where you are going next, not why something is wrong. Now it helps to hear what this sounds like in a complete paragraph. Student engagement has long been recognized as a central concern in higher education because of its consistent association with academic success, persistence, and student well-being. Over the past several decades, researchers have examined student engagement across a range of institutional contexts, including community colleges, four-year institutions, and large public universities, using multiple theoretical frameworks and empirical approaches. Aston, 1999. Koo, 2001. Fredericks et al., 2004. Trowler, 2010. This body of work has helped establish engagement as a multidimensional construct that includes behavioral, emotional, and cognitive components and has positioned engagement as a key lens for understanding students' academic experiences. More recent scholarship has increasingly focused on how engagement is shaped by everyday instructional practices and institutional environments, which provides the foundation for synthesizing what researchers say about specific engagement mechanisms. Now let's walk through how this paragraph was constructed, sentence by sentence. The first sentence establishes importance. It tells the reader why engagement matters without citing evidence or making an argument. It sets the stage rather than proving a point. The second sentence shows research activity. Notice that the citations are grouped, and that the sentence does not summarize what each author found. The purpose of these citations is to show that engagement has been studied across time and contexts, not to advance an argument. The third sentence names shared framing. It gives the reader a usable sense of how the field understands engagement without debating definitions or critiquing models. This helps the reader follow the analysis that will come later. The fourth sentence narrows the focus and acts as a bridge. It signals that the next paragraphs will synthesize research on instructional practices and environments. It does not claim that something is missing or inadequate. It simply guides the reader forward. It can also help to see a common mistake and how to correct it. A sentence like research on student engagement is limited in instructional contexts introduces evaluation and lack, which does not belong in a background paragraph. A background version of that idea would sound like scholars have increasingly examined engagement in relation to instructional practices. The meaning shifts from judgment to context. Here is one simple citation rule to remember for background paragraphs. Citations here should show that the topic has been studied, not support a specific finding. If a sentence needs a citation because it is making a claim about results, effectiveness, or relationships, that sentence likely belongs in a synthesis paragraph instead. There is also a simple boundary rule that helps you know when you are starting a new paragraph. If you find yourself introducing a new idea that would require a different kind of explanation, you are starting a new paragraph. Background paragraphs should orient around one broad topic and narrow toward one next focus. If you start defining multiple concepts or introducing multiple subtopics, you are likely trying to do too much in one paragraph. To revise a background paragraph, do two quick checks. Underline the first sentence and make sure it is broad, descriptive, and focused on importance rather than findings. Circle the last sentence, and make sure it narrows the focus toward the next theme without introducing a gap, disagreement, or critique. Then scan the middle, and make sure the citations are functioning as signals of research activity, rather than evidence of specific claims. Once a background paragraph orients the reader, and clearly sets up what comes next, it is finished. Its purpose is clarity and direction. The deeper analytical work happens in the synthesis, debate, and methods pattern paragraphs that follow.